Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be setting up my bullet journal for the month of November. This month, I'm going for a very simple setup, almost academic in the way that it's laid out, honestly. For the first page, I'm writing in my calendar page. I won't be using this page as a tracker this month, but I still like to include it as I feel like my cover page isn't quite complete without it. Keeping the art simple, I'm just drawing some leaves next to the calendar. The last few months of the year always feels like they go by too fast. October has come and gone, and now everyone seems to be getting ready for the December holidays, and poor November is often wished away. So if you're feeling like the year is running away and you can't keep up, take a moment and breathe in November. For the actual cover page, I'm adding the same leaves next to the month title. And for the title font, I'm going with evenly spaced capital letters. I do go back later and make the letters bolder with a size 03 pen. Speaking of pens, I'm using my Sakura Micron pens in this setup. All supplies used in this video will be listed down below. Inspired by dark academia, I decided to go for a coffee and books theme with some autumn elements as well. This drawing of a cup of tea on top of a book with some cookies to snack on is what makes my soul happy when the weather starts changing and the evenings are rainy and cool. I'm sure you've been wondering why I have a teacup with black coffee in it just sitting here. Well, if you're new here, you might not know that in most of my setups, I use watercolor paint. But for this one, I wanted to go full method and use coffee in my coffee theme plan. I know the drawing is a teacup and I'm using coffee. And my excuse is that I had some old coffee grinds in the cupboard and I didn't want to waste my tea bags. So pouring some of the coffee into the saucer and dipping the bottom of the cup in the coffee a few times, I can now put this cup straight onto my page. I'm going to leave it here for a few seconds so that the coffee can soak into the paper. I want some more coffee marks around the cup stain, and to help me with that, I'm using a paintbrush and dipping it into the coffee and then using a splatter drip technique. I tap the brush and have the coffee splash where it will. Because the coffee isn't as pigmented as paint is, I can easily dab away any drops that I don't want, and you can barely see those marks when the paper dries. For some of the bigger splash marks, I'm just using the brush to loosely add some coffee around the cup stain. I want the coffee stain to be a little darker, so I'm putting the cup back and I'm leaving it here for like a minute while I use the coffee to paint some of the art, like the leaves and the cookies. Now, if you want to try this coffee method, I'd definitely recommend waiting until the coffee is fully dry before handling the page too much. You don't want it to smudge and just look like a dirty paper. Now that everything is dry, I'm going to add some more color. I have this beautiful green Sakura Koi brush pen that goes so well with the brown of the coffee. I'm going over it a few times because I want it to be a dark green book. But be careful not to go too crazy. You don't want the ink to bleed through the page. I really like the Lipton yellow label tea, so I decided to make the little tea bag tag yellow. And using a brown brush pen, I'm adding some color to the cookies with the book, and also I decided to darken the tea in the cup. Now, let's move on to the rest of my setup. I decided to do some Dutch doors for all the spreads in this setup, starting with the smallest one, which is my monthly planner. First, I'm making a cover page, so cutting the Dutch door to size and then gluing this brown letter paper I had lying around to it, and then cutting the brown paper to the same size. Having a ring binder as my journal comes in handy every time I need to cut pages because I can just take out the paper, cut it, and then put it back in. I'm using the same font to write the title on this page as I used on the cover page, and that's it. I'm not adding any art to these pages because I want them to be minimal. My monthly planner is a big calendar page where I can write any appointments or events that I need to keep track of and help me plan on what days I need to do important tasks. Because the ring binder has a small gap in the middle between the pages, I'm not able to make the pages into one big spread, but I still tried. So the middle column is split in half to make everything fit evenly while having enough space to write in each square. In the top row, I'm writing the days of the week and then I'll add the dates to each square. Next, I'm cutting the second calendar page to size and adding a little sticker of a stack of books. Moving on to my weekly spread, I'm doing the exact same thing with the cover page as the monthly cover page, except this one will be slightly bigger so that you can see it peeking out behind the monthly spread. For the weekly layout this month, I want a bigger space so that I have room to write short diary entries. There's a lot going on in my life at the moment, and I think it'll be good for me to get back into writing. I also want to write some gratitude entries so that I can stay focused on the good things and not get overwhelmed with the stress. I'm definitely someone that can spiral if I don't keep myself in check, and I know myself well enough to notice when my thoughts get disorganized and I start getting a little lost. For the weeklies, I've done 6 sections. The last one will be for Saturdays and Sundays combined. Now I'm cutting out all of the weeklies and I will also be setting up all of the weeks today. For me, it works much better setting up everything together because I tend to get a little lazy throughout the month. I will come back later to decorate these pages with some washi tape at the bottom of each page. Next up is my habit tracker with the same cover page, but again, slightly bigger so that it peeks out behind the others. For the habit tracker, I'm using the same style as I did last month in my October setup, with the dates on the left hand side and the habits at the top. I try to play around with wording and different habits each month so that it doesn't get too boring. I decided to highlight the habits with the same brown Sakura Koi brush pen as I use on the November cover page. The page decorations, I'm going back to the cup of coffee for a little coffee spill. I want it to be pretty bold, so I'm going back and dipping the cup in the saucer again. I can't recommend this enough. If you've never worked with coffee or tea, I highly recommend trying it out. It's so much fun. For the extra drops, I'm dipping the brush straight into the coffee grounds at the bottom of the cup. This will make the color more intense, and the loose grounds make really cool patterns when it dries. This does, however, make the drying process a little longer though, and you must wait until it's completely dry because you'll have to dust off the coffee grounds after, and the last thing you want is to risk smudging it. The last spread in my November setup is a new one for me. I've been mostly using my phone to track my exercise program, but I thought that I'd make a spread for it in my journal this month and see how it works. For the training schedule, I have a square for each day of the week, and on the right hand side, I have the week number. So for each day, I can write which exercises I'm doing and what days are my rest days. And finally, here I am going back and adding vintage washi tape to my weeklies. If you're still watching, I want you to know that I appreciate you so much. You are amazing. Please leave me a little cup of coffee or tea in the comments down below to let me know that you know that I know. If you like my content and you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go subscribe for more bullet journal content in the future. And without further ado, here is the final flip through for November. Enjoy. And as always, I hope you have a very crafty day.